is almost 6:45. Now, as parents and students will know, exam season is upon us, but what about those pupils who are too ill to sit them? In certain circumstances, they face not being graded at all for any of the work done in the run-up. During the pandemic, GCSE and A-levels were cancelled and grades were based on assessments made by their schools, colleges and teachers. There are renewed calls for these more flexible approaches to grading when students can't sit exams for medical or serious personal reasons. The MP for Eastbourne is also calling for better communication between students, schools and examination boards so that pupils don't get unfairly penalised. Caroline Ansell raised this issue at Prime Minister's Question Time and has been leading a debate in Westminster Hall today. She highlighted Lara from Eastbourne, who faced being left with no grade after missing exams because of cancer treatment.
Exams are important, but health is the one important thing. So she will not be physically well enough because of the chemo, because of the nausea, because of constantly falling asleep, nosebleeds. She won't be sitting any exams. No, I don't think she will.
Well, the good news is that Lara can now be graded, and her parents have told us today they're waiting to see how fair the grades will be. Well, Caroline Ansell is in Westminster live for us, the MP for Eastbourne. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that you've dashed out of this debate to come and chat to us, so thank you. Tell us what sort of changed it for Lara? How did they switch that around for her?
Well, actually, a very significant change came into play last year when the regulator recognised that under the Equality Act, students in Lara's situation with these very serious medical conditions really should be recognised as such and grades could be awarded. But although the change came in, my concern now is that that change has not been widely understood or applied. So Lara's campaign to bring this issue into the light will have done a power of good to communicate that very important new recognition that actually came in last year, because I fear too many students will have been overlooked where they might have been eligible and have been disenfranchised, because these grades are qualifications. They are the passport to that next step, whether it's training or college or university. So it's critically important that young people who find themselves battling often grueling treatments can have that hope that their work and their skills and their knowledge will be recognised, and that they can battle through and pick up on the other side and move forward alongside their peers.
Now, as you say, the system is a bit complicated, isn't it? Under certain circumstances, if a student can take one exam but not another, they can be graded on the one they took, but this can affect students who can't take any of their exams, but they've done all that preparation time, and that should count too, shouldn't it? You're asking for more clarity, more transparency around the so-called workarounds to enable these students to access the grades that they deserve.
Exactly that, and I was really pleased today to hear the Minister say that there would be further communications on this to schools from the regulator, that there'll be further communications, in fact, from the Secretary of State to MPs, and I'm pushing for those sort of training opportunities for exam officers everywhere so they can road test their individual cases, because it is very much case by case and they need to know just how to interpret this new guidance. But in some situations where you have conditions so serious such as cancer, that is absolutely named under that Equalities Act.
Now, Lara's parents are actually teachers, aren't they? And they didn't realise that they could potentially get around this by talking to Ofqual. How many other students do you feel may have been sort of let down in this way?
Well, that's going to be really hard to try and quantify, and I am concerned. Last year, I'm told that hundreds of students actually went through under this new consideration. But even in my own experience, beyond Lara, there are at least 3 other students in Eastbourne who would be eligible for this consideration. So in my estimation then, looking across the country, I fear it shouldn't have been just hundreds, it should in fact have been thousands. So there is that risk of students having been overlooked. So I'm absolutely determined that ahead of this exam season we spread this new understanding far and wide. And I thank Lara and her family for sharing their story, because it will have really made a tremendous difference.
Caroline Ansell, thank you so much for joining us from Westminster today. Thank you.
Pleasure.